Hi, and welcome to our webinar about Jack Votlaic, a bottom-up approach to critical infrastructure resiliency. My name is Captain Beum. I'm the Public Affairs Officer for the Army Cyber Institute at West Point. We are a think tank for the Army. We're comprised of about 60 to 70 personnel, half civilian, half military. And our main mission is to think about 5 to 10 years in the future where we believe our nation is going to go in the world of cyber. One of our priorities is Jack Votlaic, and that's why we're here today to talk to you a little bit about what exactly that means and where we're trying to go with it. So with that said, I'd like to introduce my colleagues here. Major Hillman, would you start first?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jason Hillman, and I work here at the Army Cyber Institute at West Point. I'm a cybersecurity major. That's what I got my master's degree in, and I was brought here to the ACI to research critical infrastructure.
Captain Steve Beum, I'm a cyber officer, got my master's degree in computer science from the University of Washington with an emphasis in machine learning and artificial intelligence. My responsibility on the Jack Votlaic team is to ensure that there is a virtual and physical infrastructure that allows for us to practice some of the types of attacks that are likely to occur on critical infrastructure.
I'm Major Eric Korn. I work in the Critical Infrastructure Key Resource Division here at Army Cyber Institute. Focus on cyber policy and strategy, and I'm working with the Jack Votlaic 2.5 series.
Thank you, gentlemen. Steve, could you give us a little bit of background as to why Jack Votlaic even came about?
Sure. So the Army Cyber Institute, as you noted earlier, is doing the 5 to 10 year outlook, trying to protect the nation against emerging threats. And one of the things that is coming up is cyber attack threats against critical infrastructure. So Jack Votlaic 1, we partnered with the city of New York. They, 9/11 had recently gone through a major disaster response. And then with Jack Votlaic 2, we partnered with the city of Houston, who went through the hurricane response. Both of these cities had large budgets, good-sized emergency response structures. And since they had recently gone through an event, they had already worked out a lot of kind of their processes. And so they were a natural fit to kind of re-exercise the same type of event, only adding in a cyber attack into the scenario.
So with the city of New York, it was kind of a 9/11 type of scenario. Right. In conjunction with the cyber attack. Right. And then the city of Houston was a natural hurricane or a natural disaster, hurricane coming through with the cyber attack in conjunction with that as well.
Right. So in the case of Houston specifically, the cyber attack occurred as the city was trying to recover from a natural disaster. At least that was the scenario.
Okay.
So the water pumps suffered a catastrophic failure in the scenario. And so as they're trying to rid the city of all this excess water that had come in from the hurricane, the pumps stopped working, and so now what does the city do, right? So that's
and all the rippling effects and everybody else that gets involved, not just water. Okay, precisely. Thank you. So we've had Jack Votlaic 1.0, we've had 2.0, and we're about to do 3.0 in 2020. But before we get there, we actually created a series called Jack Votlaic 2.5. And Major Korn, can you actually go a little bit into what exactly that all entails?
Sure. So coming out of Jack Votlaic 2.0, we had a summary of key findings that we thought that what's the best way to try to share some of these lessons learned across the country and some of the critical regions that we wanted to focus on to get the word out. And so the Jack Votlaic 2.5 series is a workshop focused primarily on bringing all of the critical stakeholders together from the municipality level, DOD, also, focusing on our National Guard and reservists who work in the private sector, bringing those private sector entities together to the table, talk about some of the lessons learned that came out of Jack Votlaic 2.0, and then also get together, break out into small group sessions and focus on if this type of a cyber incident or attack happened, how would your municipality react, and how would we build the frameworks from the bottom up to help build these processes so that they're in place and build domestic critical infrastructure resiliency.
So you've gone all across the United States kind of doing these 2.5 series as of right now? Like, what are some of the cities and what was the point of going to different cities?
Yeah, so we've gone to the West Coast, we've gone to the East Coast, we went to San Diego, we went to San Francisco. There's going to be another workshop coming up in Tacoma. But we've also gone to the East Coast as well. We went to Norfolk. We're in Charleston. We were in Charleston earlier this summer. We're also going down to Savannah next week, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So yeah, we've been everywhere.
So, but can you explain why it's good to go to the different cities? And because you had mentioned talking to me earlier with the uniqueness, how each city is like different. And
Sure. Yeah. So each city and each region is unique, and so we're trying to come up with the best way to tailor this framework so that each city, municipality, state, whatever level can take this framework and exercise and build its resiliency. And so that's part of the Jack Votlaic research initiative is trying to find the best way to build this framework.
Awesome. Thank you. And then, so you mentioned 2.5. We got one coming up in Savannah in next week, August 27th through the 29th. But I know that's also supposed to be feeding into the Jack Votlaic 3.0. Major Hillman, can you explain a little bit about that?
Sure can. So Jack Votlaic 3.0 is actually going to occur in 2020.
Okay.
And next week in Savannah, we have a planning conference that gets after how we're going to run that event. So we're taking lessons learned and outcomes from 1.0 New York City, 2.0 in Houston, and then feedback from the 2.5 workshops around the country. And we're feeding that into 3.0 in 2 cities, Charleston and Savannah. So what we're going to do is lay this event over both of those cities and allow them to respond to it in order to prepare themselves.
Is there a scenario already created for these 2 cities, or are we also, I know we're still in the planning phase, right? And there might not be one just yet, but do we kind of have an idea of what we want to do, and how do we intend to get the feedback from the city?
That's a great question. So at this planning event, as well as site visits later in September, we're going to be sitting down with the critical infrastructure participants, people who own that, whether it's public or private, and talking to them about what they would like to get out of the exercise.
Okay.
So if they don't have an idea, we can help them develop that. We can help them develop objectives. The main thing, though, is just the resources. So we're bringing a cyber range, a virtual cyber range to the table, where they can freely use that resource. And we're providing them time where they can dedicate to looking at said event. Now, the event has not been defined yet, so we're still working on that. That's a major objective for next week, is find out who's going to be there to participate and then what they would like to get out of it.
So basically, they get to kind of the cities, the individual cities. I'm assuming it's kind of what we did with 2.5. Like you said, it's very tailored to that city specific needs and the way the city operates, and
That's
what they think would be the rippling second, third order effects if there was a critical infrastructure attack.
So if we're looking regionally, Savannah and Charleston may have different vulnerabilities and threats than Houston or New York City. So we're really looking for individual approaches to address some of their problems and concerns.
Clearly, we think this is very important, which is why we're talking about it. But do you mind, this is to the 3 of you gentlemen, why this is not only important for leadership to be involved in, like the city and municipality leadership, but why this is just important too for the average citizen? Why do you think this type of thing would be important?
So I think one of the key things about Jack Votlaic that separates it potentially from a lot of the other exercises that big DoD or FEMA or DHS or any of the other major federal entities, even state governor, National Guard level exercises, is they really are focused on large regions, whole states at a time. What Jack Votlaic really trying to get after is the city level. And one of the things that we like talking about is how this is really a collaborative learning event. It's not a training exercise. It's not a test. We're not coming in to dictate how cities should do what they're supposed to do. We're really trying to learn, because a lot of those other exercises, or the types of exercises that I mentioned earlier, they kind of hand wave what the cities are going to be doing. And honestly, nobody knows better about the particular power grid than the local electricians who work on that power grid. So bringing the local power utility into the conversation about, okay, what happens if there's a cyber incident? And the other thing that I think is really key about Jack Votlaic is that there's an acknowledgement by us that the critical infrastructure that supports our interests as the military, it's the same power infrastructure, it's the same water infrastructure, it's the same infrastructure that supports the local population. So in the event, God forbid, that we get into a war, or an adversary just tries to cause mayhem and chaos, for a legitimate military target, as we'd like to say, they would necessarily attack the civilians. And so what we're trying to showcase and we're trying to really quantify rather than just have as an idea in our own heads about and put on research papers, but actually make people aware of and really understand is just what those linkages are between the private sector and the public sector and how that affects an ordinary civilian.
I feel like you had a good definition earlier too.
Yeah, so I think that one of the things, and just like Captain Beum said, it's really a bottom-up focus, and so by bringing in municipality leaders of government and also bringing in the private sector and the local area, these are citizens of those local areas, and so they care about the security and the safety of the people in the region, in the towns, and so this is really just a reality of how things are today. When, just like Captain Beum said, there's a focus on targeting this critical infrastructure down to the lowest level, and it may not be a state actor, it could be a non-state actor, it could be a criminal action. So it's really trying to focus on that bottom-up approach by the citizens themselves, because that's really what we're aiming to achieve in this exportable framework.
Awesome, great. I always like when I'm allowed to contribute my own feedback to how I think something should go. So hopefully people also appreciate that as well. Sir, what can people do to help improve the synchronization of critical infrastructure resiliency? Like what can they do?
Well, they can show up and participate in this event. So next week in Savannah, on Tuesday, we'll have a 2.5 workshop, which will go over the lessons learned from Houston.
Okay.
And then on Wednesday and Thursday, we'll have the 3.0 planning event. And that's an opportunity where you can come in, you can meet like-minded people, all ends of the spectrum on familiarization and where they're at with their preparedness level. So everybody's welcome. They come in, we'll provide a short case study on some of the things that have happened across the nation. One in particular is the Colorado Department of Transportation. They were hit by a ransomware attack last year.
Okay.
And it was the first case where a state called in the National Guard to respond to it. So some very interesting lessons are coming out of that.
Like an actual real world event that you guys are able to use and
Correct.
Kick off this next Jack Votlaic.
Yep.
That is really helpful.
So we want to find out what the people who run the critical infrastructure in Savannah and Charleston are interested in, what their concerns are, so we can tailor the exercise around those.
Awesome. Okay, so with that said, can we run people through how to find this information and resources? And if you guys do want to sign up for Jack Votlaic 2.5 or 3.0.
So if you are interested in finding out more, there are a couple of places that you can go. Both of them are on our website. So let me share the screen here. And if you go to the Army Cyber Institute's main page at https://cyber.armory.mil, you can come to this tab where it says events and go to the page listed as Jack Votlaic. On this page, there are instructions for how to register for the two events, the next Jack Votlaic 2.5 and Jack Votlaic 3.0. Both of these events are taking place consecutively at the same location next week, so the 27th of August through the 29th. Feel free to register for both.
It's free too, right?
It is free to register, absolutely. But if you can't make it and you just want to find out a little bit more about the research itself, you can go to the research tab on the ACI main page and click on ACI research and scroll down to the Jack Votlaic Critical Infrastructure Resilience section, and then click on the site that is listed here with the Visit Jack Votlaic Research page, and that will give you a more detailed synopsis of the previous events. In fact, you can click on the banner here for Jack Votlaic 1.0 and watch a video that we produced detailing some of the event and some of the lessons learned coming out of that. Jack Votlaic 2.0 has some additional information. Jack Votlaic 2.5 has some additional information. And then Jack Votlaic 3 has some additional information as well.
Just good resources for anybody to be able to review and go over to see how it might be applicable for you. Gentlemen, thank you very much for kind of laying out what Jack Votlaic is, how far it's come along, where we're trying to go in the future with it. Do you have anything else you kind of want to add? Like why you should come?
I'll close with just saying that the more we talk about cybersecurity, and the more we try to prepare for it, the less we talk about vulnerabilities and threats that are no doubt out there. And we see those in the news every day. So there's a place for you at this event.
I think it's an important point to reiterate as hard as possible that we really need your input. We have our own perspective, but by no means, none of us are professionals in the water utility. None of us are professionals in the power utility. We have some idea, but we have no real experience with any of it. And so there's inevitably going to be a lot of information that we don't have that is going to be absolutely necessary. This is a whole of nation approach. This is not just something that the Army is going to be able to solve.
Yeah, and I would just piggyback off of that a little bit and just say that it's really about the partnerships that we're able to build and to bridge some of these gaps together, because like we've been saying, we can't really do this without you all. You are the subject matter experts, and we're just trying to bring resources to the table and be part of the solution. And we really need you to help us do that.
So help us help you. We really look forward to hopefully seeing you there at our Jack Votlaic next week in Savannah. Thank you.